Welcome to the Superabound podcast, where vision-led entrepreneurs learn to build a generous business without sacrificing what matters most. You are listening to episode 342, Mind Expanders for Business Owners.
Sounds fun. How are we going to expand our mind?
So last time, we talked a lot about tackling big visionary projects when you don't feel like you have time. You know, if you run a business, if you are a leader, if you have a life, those bigger projects will always kind of seem to fall by the wayside. There's always going to be a fire. There's always going to be someone who needs something from you. There's always going to be something that's probably a higher priority than the book you want to write, the course you want to build, the creative project you want to do, the long-term thing that your business might not be ready for today, but you know that eventually you want to get there. And when we talked about this, I mean, I talked about it. You weren't with me on this episode, Steve. I was really thinking about, yes, there's tactical and practical things that you can do, but it really does start with your mindset. So you are somebody who I think likes to tackle the impossible or what seems to be impossible.
Better or for worse?
For better or for worse, yeah. For strain on our marriage or business. But like in all seriousness, you've done some things that probably thought were impossible. I remember really early on in our relationship, actually, we were part of a meditation community, and you said, I wonder what would happen if I didn't meditate for 2 hours in the morning. And instead, I started learning like coding or something. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah. This was before the machines could just code for you. So if you wanted to code, you had to teach yourself how to do it. And it seemed pretty impossible.
Yeah.
I had a technical mind, but spent my career early on focusing on music, so different kind of code. And once I got into software, I realized that this would really help me if I could do it more fluently.
I remember a mindset blockage you had around it in the early days. You were like, oh, I think I would have had to start this when I was 13. So, like, I don't see any point in really investing time and energy into coding. And I'm curious if you even remember what shifted for you besides me saying, oh, no, you should do it.
Honestly, having help from people in your life, having the buoying support of people who believe in you makes a huge difference. So that was part of it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, right. The confidence of others, like the tiniest little seeds we drop into people's minds, can bloom into beautiful flowers. And that was definitely part of it. Um, in terms of whatever mindset work I did on my own, honestly, it was just about my enthusiasm for it.
Hmm.
It was something that I loved. And so even if it was even if it never became very instrumental in my career, I just wanted to do it. I knew that it would play a role somehow, and I was excited about it.
And I think that, if we're going to talk about mind expanders a little more today, I think that that is very often overlooked. Like, people forget that intrinsic motivation is actually very hardcore. It is what we're talking about when we talk about having a superabound vision. We're talking about doing something with your life, with your life's energy, that is big enough to weather every storm. It is so important to you that it doesn't matter how hard things are, what challenges you have to face, what someone told you you could or couldn't do when you were 5. Like, when you have a vision, it is some intrinsic, internal motivation that is guiding you to something. And for a lot of us, I think these bigger projects and the ways that we expand our mind into the impossible, actually, they don't start out as the genius business idea. This was something that actually changed the trajectory of your career in a big way. But if you had been doing, I wonder if it have been different if you had said, I really need to, you know, learn a new skill set for my business or learn a new skill set for my career, or if you had just Like if that would have been as motivating for you as like, this is really fun. This is really interesting. I think that there's something here and I'm interested to find out what it is.
I am so self-centered that if something is not fun for me, it just doesn't get done. I think I'm hardcore. I'm like, I'm gonna do da da da. And like in 2 weeks, it's just gone by the wayside. And then Erin says, what happened to such and such? I'm like, didn't want to do it. If there's no internal driver of like, this is awesome for me, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, willpower is finite. I think that that's true for me too. Um, when I'm committed to something, I'm super committed to it, but there has to be, I don't know if it's about being self-centered. I think it's just about like it has to have an upside that feels good. Having a business, just in case anyone listening to this episode, I did say that this episode could help anyone, but I mean, we're talking to business owners and leaders, but for anyone who may not be in that boat, um, running a business is so hard. I never want to be like negative about it because I think there's enough people out there that are very negative about having a business. It is so hard to put your ideas on the line, to say I'm gonna not do the conventional career pathway. I want to work for myself, for my clients, for a purpose I believe in, and then hope that it works enough and do everything you can, not just hope, but like do everything you can to make it work enough so that you can support your family, you can support your lifestyle. That is really, really hard. And there is no way, if I had set out in my business to say, I want to make $1 million in under 3 years, I don't think that purpose would have gotten me there.
It's not compelling enough.
It really is not compelling enough because it's just so hard to do what we do. And I think that that's true for every business owner across every industry. I'm not saying like, I think what we do is probably on the nicer side of hard.
I just you're bringing up something really
Okay.
important for me, and it's where you put your attention. We're talking about mind expanders, and you can think, well, how do I make my mind bigger? In this case, it's actually about making your mind smaller because when you think, oh, let me take everything in, what you're going to take in is, oh my God, this is hard. Oh my God, this isn't working. If I just went and got a job with such and such, that would be so much easier. Like, you don't want your mind to be that expanded. You want your mind to be smaller, focused on the things that are working, focused on the things that excite you, focused on the reason, the one needle in a haystack that you're doing it for, and kind of downplaying, not avoiding, but downplaying the importance of the rest of the haystack, right? The stuff that's so hard and kind of, challenging. So, like, narrowing your mind to why are you here? What is that thing that gets you excited? What's possible tomorrow that today's work can bring about is an expander by getting smaller.
I think I have to rename this whole episode down. Thanks a lot, Steve. No, it's such a good point, though. And I think when I was thinking about like mind expanders, I was thinking, I love that perspective, but I also think that maybe specifically, I'm thinking about like mindset expansion. So that's probably what I should have called this. Sorry, everybody, halfway change, mid episode change. It's a mindset expander because part of what I think people don't realize is that there's all of the hard, which is the tactical, practical things. There is work that has to be done. There's effort that must be exerted to get you from wherever you are today to where you want to go in the future. But then what makes that so much harder is if you are filled with static. If your bowling balls are in the backpack and you're trying to hike up the mountain, which we talk about a lot in our book, Superbound, right back there, that makes things so much harder than they need to be. And so often it's because we're believing things about ourselves that are old. I can pick one that I still say sometimes. I always say to people, we're working on something with one of our kids right now, a project for their business. And something I always say about myself is I'm not really an organized person. I've learned to become organized over time, because I run a business and I have to be places on time. I have to, have my systems in place. Like I have really learned organization, but I'm not a naturally organized person. And if I just believe that thought, if I just say, oh, I'm not an organized person, it would be so easy for my life to be a mess, my business to be a mess. The truth is, I have learned to be an organized person. And the truth is, at this stage of my life, for anyone who looks at my calendar, they would look at that objectively and say, you seem very organized. I'm probably one of the most organized people I know, but sometimes I hold on to this old belief that I'm not, just because it didn't come naturally.
Mm-hmm.
So it's often not these like drastically negative thoughts we have about ourselves that we have to expand. It's often like tiny little beliefs that are kind of like the wallpaper around your life that pigeonhole you into positions where you're not powerful, you're not empowered, you're not resilient, you're not creative, you're not being strategic. And no one else is really doing that. Maybe someone did that to you when you were 5. Maybe someone said, you're not organized, Erin. Someone did. And it was probably true. But I'm the one replaying that tape over and over. I'm the one letting that wallpaper stay on the walls.
So turning this into a mind expander, I'd have you ask the question, what do I think is true that might no longer be so? Maybe someone told you when you were little you're not organized. Maybe you believe that you're not good with people, but the reality is something entirely different. I was at a conference just last week, and I stood up and I asked the question of the speaker. This guy was so brilliant. He was blowing everybody's minds. And I said, he was talking about AI, and I said, ever since I started using AI, I feel less intelligent. I feel less bright. I feel less, confident and capable. And he goes, you are standing there in front of 1,000 people asking a very coherent, clear question. The person who is saying he does not feel as bright does not seem to be the one holding the microphone. And I was like, oh, yeah, good point. So just question, kind of poke open some holes and do a little journaling, perhaps. What are some beliefs you have about yourself that might be no longer true?
I like that. And I also think that you're a coach, so it's easy for Steve to say because he's expecting that everybody can just
It's
open
hard
up.
to just like find the stuff that may no longer be, because it's literally what you think is true.
It is what you think is true. So you could do that. And if you know yourself, if you are self-aware in the level of Steve, you
You
can
know
do
what?
it.
Okay, so here's the exercise. No. I'm not going to let this just fade away.
No,
Here's the exercise.
Go ahead.
You go next. Write down all the things you believe about yourself.
Yeah.
I am not good with people. I am slow to return my work. I am not creative. Any of those things, especially if they're kind of negative and they feel kind of true,
Staticky things.
write them down.
Yeah.
Write down all the static. And that is step one.
Okay. That's what I was going to say.
Okay. We're on the same wavelength.
So yeah, looking basically, an experiment I ran with myself a few years ago is I kind of started listening more intently to the narrative around the way I worked and the way I was in the world. And it was just like any belief I had about myself that felt bad. Like I'm not deserving of this. I shouldn't do, shoulds are a good one to look for. I shouldn't do this. I should do that. I should be more like such and such. Those kinds of beliefs that, they might not like send you in like sobbing. It may not be like in tears from thinking them, but they just kind of feel like a little gut punch. Those things are going to show you some of those kind of wallpaper default beliefs that you're carrying around. And then I think step two is like, ask yourself, first of all, like, how long have I thought this? And maybe is it still true? Do I have any, or not, maybe not, is it still true? Because then you could say, it is still true. I'm still a mess. Everything's
How
still
about what
nice.
are the ways in which it is no longer true?
Or, yeah, like something like that, where you're just not to dispute it, not to get into an argument with yourself, because that can get weird when you're doing this alone. But just to say, is it like 100% true all the time? Like what we're trying to do, I call it brain gymnastics. What we're trying to do is just get some complexity into something that you have decided is absolutely true. It's black and white. Um, if you can just get a little bit of wiggle room and bring some complexity into the situation, often it's enough to say, okay, I can say I'm probably not naturally organized, but I have learned the skill of organization. When it counts, I am organized. When my kids have to be somewhere on time, I am mostly the one that gets them there
It
on time.
happens. It happens.
So there are just ways in which that we can take care of ourselves with these mind expanders through the mindset. Another approach I like to take for those of you who are like, I don't know about this mindset stuff. I guarantee it will help you to do this exercise. But if you want maybe something a little fancier, I like to expand my mindset about what I believe is possible for myself by giving myself a kind of a wild project. Um, Sometimes I will take courses that have nothing to do with my work just to see if I can do it. Working out was a mindset expander for me. Is to never lift weights, couldn't lift 10 pounds over my head. Um, and now I think I've worked out consistently for it's like almost 400 weeks. Like it's almost as long as our second child has been alive consistently. That's a mindset expander because it was a way of taking a belief I had about myself that like I'm not an athlete, I'm not strong, and doing something about it. Not just working on it within my mind, but like doing something to change the truth of that into something else.
That's a powerful one because you're looking at the world around you and you're seeing that new mindset from the physical world. That's how you know your mind has actually expanded, is when the world around you reflects it, when you see that change in your life.
Yeah. Do you have any examples of that for you? What's something you didn't like that you just decided you were going to change and then you did it?
I mean, I have a couple examples that I share in the book. One is learning a piano concerto.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
From scratch. I learned the Beethoven piano concerto as my COVID project because, can't just practice some piano. You got to actually go ahead and perform a concerto after having not played the instrument for 20 years.
Just a 45-minute song. For those of you who don't know what a concerto is,
yeah,
it's a long song. I was going to say song. You say ordeal. Your words are fine.
Yeah, I think that would be one. Honestly, any time where I kind of feel that trepidation and then I jump in and do it anyway, is an expression of that mindset expansion. We had a very interesting one with our youngest when we went to the water park recently. It was one of these places where they have those like straight down, those vertical drop water slides. And he was terrified at the beginning. And by the last day, he's like, okay, I'm going to do it. It's called the leap of faith. He goes, I'm going to do the leap of faith. I'm like, okay, we'll see, buddy. We'll see what happens when you get up there. Because I'm terrified. When I go up, I do it. But when I go up there, I'm just like, this is way too much. Like, you can't see anything. It looks like you're literally plunging yourself to your doom. And so
into a shark tank.
Yeah, into a shark tank. And so you get up there and I'm standing next to him and he just, no hesitation, just gets on and I was like, oh my God. So I talked to him afterwards. I said, how did you decide to do that? How did you do that? That was nuts. Most people don't do that. And he goes, uh, I knew that people don't get harmed from riding the ride. There's no like stories of anyone dying from doing this water slide. And so even though I was scared, I just did it. And I was so impressed that he let his logical thinking mind lead the way, even though his reptilian feeling mind was probably saying, don't throw yourself over a cliff. But he did it because he like the logic was strong enough to go ahead and do it. So I think that can also be a mind expander, is where you just sit down and you say, okay, what do I know about this? And you create such a strong case that you can actually clear the way for yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, I know we talk about FOMO being like some terrible thing, but it's interesting you say that about his experience, because I know in past we've been to this place a few times and we've left that place and there was like a little bit of regret. He was like, oh, I hope we get to go back because I think I might want to do one of the bigger slides this time. You might want to do this. And, you know, I know a lot of kids are very fearless. This child is
Not this
often,
guy.
no, I think he's like respectful of his fear and
Yeah.
respectful of, you know, when he feels ready, he will do something. He's not, I love something I love about him. He does not get pushed into doing something before he feels ready. But I think also knowing that if he left without doing it, he was going to regret that. That was also like thinking about his future self and caring for his future self, not just overriding the reptilian brain, because I don't know if we can actually always do that. I think sometimes logic wins out, but there has to be some enough safety, which he created for himself.
Mhm.
Um, and knowing that his future self would be really proud. That's a cool thing. So maybe for you, if you're thinking about, I really want to expand my mindset, I want to finally, maybe it is doing one of those big projects we talked about in the last episode. Maybe it is overcoming something that you feel like has been blocking your way in your business or in your personal life. If that's something you want to work on, you can think of the challenge of going through whatever you need to go through today as a gift to your future self. In the book Superabound, we also have a practice called Coffee with the Oracle, which is one of my favorite and most regular practices where you actually commune with and talk to your future self and you find out what they need. And then you, in this moment, in your present self, can go take care of that. It's a really, really beautiful way of moving through challenges and expanding your mind.
Speaking of moving through challenges, this one gets a lot of people, and that's when they think there's only one path forward.
Mm-hmm.
There's something tricky in front of you. Maybe it's a hard personnel challenge. Maybe it's a decision you need to make. Maybe it's a project that seems too big to ship. There's always a way.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a way. And our minds will often, this is where you need the mind expander rather than the mind limiter. Our mind will often say, well, it has to be this way. I have to do da da da. And it just freaks you out. Oh, procrastinate on that until the end of time because you're just focused on that's the only way. If you let yourself expand into, I know there's a way, right? You can have that coffee with the oracle, get some inspiration from your future self that has found that way, or even just take that first step towards a solution by saying, there's got to be a way that works for me
Mm-hmm.
and how I manage, how I want to lead, how, you know, what my values are, how I want to do this. Then that thing that seems impossible can become a little more malleable. And in the, you know, with the tools that we share in the book, you've got your static around it, which says, this is the only way, I can't do it that way, therefore this is never going to get done. None of those things are true, but they're the drivers of your fearful response, your avoidance, you know, whatever it is that's kind of causing it to become a bigger issue than it might need to be. And then there are the actual challenges, right? What needs to happen as these next steps? And so if you can spend some time either with yourself, with your journal, with your coach, separating out those ideas, those beliefs of how it is versus what actually needs to happen, or even just what is the end result? Where are we trying to go? And why does that matter? That will do a lot to clear up some space, just give a little sunshine in a place that might feel kind of dark and heavy.
And if, the new year is on your mind, I actually created a quiz to help you get some clarity for your focus in 2026. It's probably takes about 5 minutes to do the quiz. And that I will post in the show notes here, wherever you're listening to this episode. You can also head to Instagram at @BeSuperAbound, and it is in my bio. The link is waiting for you for that quiz. That will also really help you get some laser focus on what you might need to do with your mindset in the new year, practical tools, and just getting some clarity and focus about the direction. So if you want to expand your mind, but you don't want to just go in circles with it, focusing on one of those areas will be really, really useful to you. And you can start the year feeling relief and clear.
And you'll get a personalized response from Erin or myself, the first 10 people who fill that out. You get some extra love.
I'm doing more than 10.
Oh, well.
I don't know why you're thinking it's only 10.
Oh.
I'm gonna do it till I can't do it anymore. I'm gonna be responding to people until our holiday shutdown. Which maybe we'll talk about next time, how we plan for big holiday shutdowns. Steve's only gonna do 10, I guess.
But yeah, supplies are limited, folks. Yeah, there.
So head to the show notes for that, or my Instagram at @BeSuperAbound in the bio for the 2026 clarity quiz. That is totally free. That is something we were just offering as a year-end gift. Steve, not as much as me. You're welcome.
Scrooge. Sorry. Scrooge over here.
But if you're lucky enough to get Steve's insight, then think of it as a special bonus.
Special bonus. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Have a great week.